talk about coding. Yeah, that's a great thing. Right, so over the next 8 weeks, we're going to talk about many different aspects of coding. So the very first thing I'd like to show you is how we deal with a web browser. It seems a stupid question, but I'm asking that because of a reason. Yeah, cool. It will get better in a second, but you can mute it. Right, so nice music, right?
It's not working.
All right, so does anyone know which is the most popular programming language in the world?
JavaScript.
It is JavaScript, fantastic. Does anyone think it's Python?
No.
No.
Maybe in the future.
Maybe in the well, yeah, maybe it's true. No one knows, right? But the reality says that today is JavaScript, and we're going to learn JavaScript. Not because it's easier, not because it's faster. It's because it's what the market demands. Yeah. It's a bit sad to see how we got here students that have waste a lot of time and money attending other boot camps and they never learn what they need to learn and they end up here, right? It's sad because it's a big investment for the majority of us, right? So how do you think it's easier to break into a market? By learning something that if you go to Google you got 1,000 of opportunities, or by learning something that you have 10? Yeah, the more opportunities, the better, right? I think that's sounds pretty natural to me. If tomorrow the most demanded language is not JavaScript, but is Ruby on Rails, we'll learn Ruby on Rails. I'm not a big fan of JavaScript. Well, I am. But the reason why we are doing JavaScript is not because it's my favorite, it's because it's what you need to get a job. Yeah? JavaScript and React. Yeah, this is the best combination possible today. So why JavaScript, guys? Is it easier to learn? Is it faster? Is it sexier? So why JavaScript?
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. That's a good point. It's everywhere. But why is everywhere? Why?
Because you can use in backend and frontend.
That's a good point. Yes, it is the only language that runs everywhere. Yeah. So does anyone know when JavaScript was released? First version?
1995?
Say again?
You said 95?
95, correct. 4th of December of 1995. It's still a relatively young programming language. Yeah. So in 1995, JavaScript was the only language to get married, to get the ring with a web browser. Yeah. Does anyone remember? Well, I think half of you were not even born in 1995. But still, do you know, it's a bit of programming culture, which was the most popular web browser in 1995? Wrong. Netscape, correct. Before Internet Explorer before Microsoft had the idea to bring Internet Explorer's default browser on Windows, with all the problems that happened afterwards, Netscape was the king. But still, in 1995, who cared about the web browser? Internet was something very, very small, right? It wasn't popular at all. That's why probably the other programming languages, they didn't really care. Why I need to support a web browser? This is just something for, no one really cared. But JavaScript did care. As a side effect, you know how important the web is today. The web is everywhere. Yeah? And as a side effect, JavaScript is everywhere. That's why it's so popular. So I will never defend JavaScript because it's faster or easier. No, it's because it's everywhere. And that's why it's so important. And to be fair, it has evolved a lot. I started work with JavaScript with JavaScript in 2002. It was a toy language. It has grown a lot. So today, I believe it's really nice. You can do very, very cool things. And the important thing is that it keeps going, keeps improving. Yeah? So now there is a new version of JavaScript every year with new features. Every July, you get a new feature of JavaScript. Does anyone know who is responsible of delivering new versions of the standard? No one? So there is something called, so JavaScript is based on, I know this is a bit broad and it's a bit of programming culture, right? Why am vomiting all this data, numbers and everything? Because in a job interview, to me, these things could make a difference, right? If they ask you, what do you know about JavaScript? And you talk a bit about these things, you prove that you have interest on it, yeah? So JavaScript is based on a standard called ECMAScript. You may have heard about that. So ECMAScript is a huge document where it tells you what is supported, what is not supported. It's like the spec, the specification of the standard, yeah? ECMAScript. But who creates ECMAScript? Who maintains it? So there is a group on the internet called TC39. So TC39 is a non-profit group based in Switzerland. Yeah? It's a group of people, weird people based somewhere in the mountains. Probably not, right? Probably they're based on an average WeWork building in Geneva. But anyway, so they decide every year what do they incorporate to the standard. Yeah? And thankfully, today, they are very open. In the past, they just decided how JavaScript works. And because of that, there are lots of oddities, lots of weird things about JavaScript. Yeah, especially, we'll talk about that during the bootcamp. I'll show you some code snippets and you will say like, what the hell? Why is that working in that way? All JavaScript. Thankfully, these things don't happen anymore, or not that often. Yeah, because now there's a huge community of billions of developers. Yeah, so if a new feature is weird, the community will complain. There is a GitHub project. You know GitHub already, right? So GitHub is where the code is. Actually, today, unless you've done that already, you're going to create your GitHub account. So the TC39 has a very popular GitHub repo where everybody can submit a new proposal. If you have a fantastic idea, you can submit it. And if the community likes the idea, eventually it will be incorporated into the next version of JavaScript, which is fantastic. It's fabulous, right? A good example of that is classes. You know, if you've done a bit of Java or C#, you know classes. So classes were not supported by JavaScript. But because of all the pressure of backend developers, they ended supporting them back in 2015. And there are many, many other examples. Yeah? Especially towards the end of the bootcamp, we'll see some of very, very advanced JavaScript features, things like async await. That to me is like a new wall. I've changed completely my way of coding because of these new trendy things. It's a way of building complex applications in a very simplistic way. But anyway, we'll talk about that in the future. So yes, JavaScript is the most popular programming language in the world. And to be honest, based on what we discussed before, like what will happen in the future? No, do you know? No. Do I know? No. No one really knows, right? But I can tell you the trend. And the trend says that the gap between JavaScript and the others is just growing and growing every year. Will that change? Maybe one day, who knows? But I don't think this is going to change in the short term. So definitely today, and I'm sure in the next 5 years, JavaScript is the right thing to learn. Yeah? According to GitHub, JavaScript is not only the most popular programming language in the world, it's more popular than the second and the third combined together. Yeah? There are more projects written in JavaScript than Python and Java together. 2.3 million. That's a lot of projects. Yeah? Cool, it's JavaScript. But the thing is, can we build powerful web applications only using JavaScript, or do we need anything else? What else do we need? Library. Why? Sorry, again?
So we must be rewriting the same thing, not creating the same code.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. Yeah, to reuse stuff. Okay, but if the thing is, imagine that I don't want to reuse anything. I'm creating my portfolio, right? I'm creating my portfolio like you will do so soon. Can I only use JavaScript, HTML, and CSS? Technically speaking, you can. However, it will be very complicated. It will be very challenging. Why? Because even though JavaScript has massively evolved, so now it's a super powerful language, there is one aspect, only one, to me, where it is still very weak. It doesn't really work. And that very single aspect is the user interface part. It is very complicated to create a user interface with JavaScript, with vanilla JavaScript. Very complicated. The APIs are very rudimentary, very old. Yeah? Because of that, still today in 2019, even though technically speaking, yes, you can create everything without any single library, it's not really realistic. You are going to fail. It's just a matter of time because it's impossible to maintain a user interface written in JavaScript. Thankfully, we have libraries and frameworks that will help you on that process of creating a user interface. So can you tell me a JavaScript library or a framework to build UIs? React? Jquery? Vue? No, vanilla no. Vanilla is the way we say, when we say vanilla JavaScript, it means like raw JavaScript, no libraries. Angular, fantastic. See, you heard about some of them, right? React, Vue. So all these libraries or frameworks, they tend to solve the same problem. JavaScript is super strong, but it doesn't handle UI. So these libraries will help you on the process of creating a user interface. So Jquery, that was probably one of the most popular library back in time. I know that some bootcamps still teach Jquery. Never trust these people. Because the thing is, listen, Jquery died in 2011, commercially speaking. It's like, okay, 8 years. 8 years in JavaScript time is the same as 2 million years in human time. It's like completely obsolete, completely deprecated. We are not going to learn Jquery here. And the thing is, that has happened many times. Students come back to us after the bootcamp, hey, I see an opportunity in Jquery. Should I take it? If a company is doing Jquery, it's because of two reasons, or two alternatives, or the combination of both. Option A, they don't really know what they are doing, and you don't really want to be part of a company that they don't know what they are doing, technically speaking. Option B, they know what they are doing, but the software they are maintaining is 10, 15 years old. You don't really want to be part of that. Yeah? You know, a piece of software that has been maintained for 10 years by hundreds of developers, maybe with different code styles, with lots of hacks, because something didn't work in production, that's a nightmare. It's very complicated, very, very complicated. Yeah? So ideally, we should try to avoid this type of opportunities. Yeah? I mean, again, ideally. Then in reality, many things may happen. But at least, first message is not as a first step, don't try to learn Jquery. We got Angular, that was a good example. So Angular brought many, many different things to the web, right? It was a huge step ahead back in 2011. I was one of the first Angular developers in the world. I've been doing many conferences for them. But now we got React. Yeah? So React, who is the owner of Angular? Does anyone know? Google. It's Google, that's correct. And who is the owner of React? Facebook. You see the battle, right? You see, at the end of the day, even if we talk about very technical things, it's the same people, the same companies trying to dominate the web. Someone also mentioned Vue. Vue is a Chinese library. So you see China, or let me rephrase that, the web has been dominated by the Americans. You will see you have to type the symbol dollar many times in the next 8 weeks. Why you type dollar and not euro or sterling? Because software was created by the Americans, or was controlled at least by the Americans. But now, by the first time ever, China is trying to get a slice of the cake, because they really understood, and this is something that in Europe we should learn, that whoever dominates the web, they dominate the world in many different aspects. Yeah. So now there is a big rivalry between React and Vue. Which one do you think is more popular?
Vue.
Why?
Just the sheer population of China.
This is a very controversial question. Which one? When we talk about which football team is more popular, Manchester is. How can we evaluate that, right? But talking about coding, we can get some numbers. So I'd like to show you some numbers. So I'm going now to Google and I'll type React GitHub, and then so I click on the first link. This is essentially the GitHub project of React. Yeah. So you see it's a big project, 12,000 commits. 1,000 contributors, big project, right? Look, how many people, look at this number of stars. Yeah? So that's the way we used to evaluate the popularity of a library. And that's important. Imagine that you are working on a commercial app and you are thinking about integrating an external plugin. So the number of stars tells you how many people are using it. If you say that no one is using a library, could be really good, but it's like, this is not very mature, right? It's a bit scary to bring that to your platform. But you know, React, very popular, 138K. What about Vue? I'm going to repeat the same exercise, and then I'm going to Google Vue GitHub. Do you think we'll have more or less? More. Let's have a look. 138 versus Ooh. It's a bit shocking, right? Vue is more popular than React. You know that in the West, we are sometimes a bit selfish. Yeah? We think that everything happens because of Europe and US, but that's not true in a global war, right? Why in 1914 there was something called World War I, if only affected European countries, because we believe we are the center. We've been historically speaking thinking that we are the center of the world. If you look at a map of the world, Europe is in the middle. Why? If you look at a map of Argentina, Argentina is in the middle, right? So every region thinks that they are the center of the world, right? But I think we need to have a global vision of what's going on, especially nowadays. So nowadays, Vue is at least as popular as React, if not more. But then you may be asking, hey, but why are we learning React instead of Vue? No? Because even though globally speaking, Vue is slightly more popular than React, it's really focused in China. So the message is, if you're planning to move to China and to some Southeast countries in Asia, Vue is what you have to learn. But I believe the majority of you is planning to stay in Europe or even moving to America, right? In that case, React is much better. I mean, I'm showing that message, I'm showing that to you because keep an eye on Vue. Because I'm telling today, React is the king. But that may change in 4 or 5 years, so be ready for that. At least one of the good things is once you learn React, learning Vue is a piece of cake. So don't worry. It will take you a few days to learn Vue, right? So don't worry about that. Thankfully, today we use standards and things like that. So all the it's like cars. You know, if you like cars, if you look cars from the 50s, last century, every car was different, big difference. But today, if you buy a BMW or an Audi, they're pretty similar, right? No big difference. The wheel, the leather is the same car, right? So with libraries, it's the same. There are no big differences. So that's fine. So both Vue and React are libraries, not frameworks. Don't call them, never go to a job interview and say, do you know React? Yeah, React is a framework. Wrong. It's your first sentence is React is a framework. You know that thing of first impression only happens once? You could be a really good developer, but if that's the first thing you said, that smells a bit like you didn't have a shower in 2 weeks, right? Don't say that. React is a library. What's the difference between a library and a framework? Well, and could go beyond the scope of the bootcamp, but just to keep the long story short, a framework is something big. It's something that tries to solve all the problems of your app. Why Angular is a framework? Because Angular is a huge component that gives you utilities to do everything. Yeah? With Angular, they tell you, if you download, if you install Angular, you don't need to install anything else. We provide you all the dependencies and everything, yeah? All included. Yeah? Like when you go to Mexico, to the Caribbean with the bracelet, all included. So this is Angular. However, Vue and React, they have a different approach. They don't try to solve all your problems. They try to solve one, very specific. UI handling. You remember? I told you that UI is the main problem with JavaScript. So this is what React and Vue deal with, UI. And that's one of the reasons why Angular was so popular in 2011. Because in 2011, JavaScript was still very small, so you needed to download many dependencies. You want to call an API, dependency. You want to sort an array, dependency. You end up with a mess of plugins, something huge, right? And Angular told you, no. Okay, I'm a huge library. I'm a huge framework, but if you install me, that's it. That's all you need. So it's simplified. Yeah, it's in the process of creating apps. Yeah.
What does API stand for?
API. So API is the way. It's like a protocol. It's an application protocol interface. Programming interface. That's it. Application programming interface. So an API is like the contract between two counterparties, between two elements. You are going to create APIs on task number 18 in conflicts. That may happen in a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks. Yeah. So an API is the way two systems communicate to each other. Have you watched Independence Day, the movie, 1997? Yeah? Do you remember the scene that wasn't on the original footage? Then they released on DVD an additional extension where the programmer, you remember that they capture like the UFO, they capture the spaceship, exactly, and it had like a shell, like a shield. So if they shoot the ship, the shell reject the. So it was very impossible to damage the ship, right? Because it had like a shield. And there was one programmer, the average programmer with glasses in the 90s, trying to connect to the API of the spaceship, which is completely bullshit, right? Because you're connecting to an alien, to a UFO. We don't know, understand which protocol and which language. It's a UFO, right? And the guy was like surrounded by 20 people from the army, the president. It's completely random. The guy thinking, and after 1 minute, he said, "I got it." Press enter, and the UFO is like disconnected. So then they can kill it, right? It's completely bullshit. But this is an API. So the guy managed to connect with a protocol that we as humans never seen, right? We'll talk with human protocols, so don't worry about that. Anyway, Vue and React. So why Angular is not that popular compared to Vue and React? Because in 2011, as I said before, you needed many different tools to build an app. But thankfully, since 2011 to 2015, JavaScript has exploded in a positive way. So all the things that were missing in the standard have been incorporated since 2011 to 2015. So thankfully, today, to create apps, you don't need 20 plugins. You probably need 1 or 2. Yeah? So you see the process, right? The number of dependencies is shrinking, and that's a good thing. Still, we still need something for the UI. I wish one day that won't happen anymore. I wish maybe JavaScript 2021, 2022 release, they will add many UI utilities, so you won't need React and Vue anymore. That will be a good news, right? But for now, reality is that you still need one. So anyway, we are going to learn React. All right, so yeah, we're talking about HTML, we'll be talking about CSS, we'll be talking about JavaScript and React. So this is the most demanded stack in London at the moment. Yeah? HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React. That's why we focus on it. We'll talk about backend, back to APIs. So does anyone know how we call JavaScript running in the server side? Node.js, correct. Yeah? And this was a vital aspect of JavaScript. So there are 2 highlights in JavaScript history. First of all, getting the ring with the web browser in 1995. And the second one, I think that was 2005, 2006, I don't remember exactly, was to have the ability of running JavaScript in the backend. That doesn't sound very important, but let me present you the problem. Imagine that we go back in time to 2003, 2004. Imagine that you are creating an app, a web app, yeah? Because at that time, the web was quite popular already, MySpace, you remember these things, right? So how many developers, imagine that you are a businessman, you don't want to code, but you have the money, so you need to hire developers. How many developers you think you needed back in 2003, 2004 to build a web app?
2 front end and back end.
Correct, absolutely. You needed at least 2 developers. You needed someone with the ability to write front-end code, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and you needed someone to write back-end code, the dark side, APIs, yeah? Because JavaScript didn't run in the backend. So what are we talking about? Java, PHP, C#, Python, even whatever. Yeah, you need 2 roles, which is okay. But then someone had an idea, which is pretty fundamental if you think about it. He said, hey, wait a minute. If you need JavaScript, yes or yes, because it's the only language that runs in the browser. You remember that? If you need that, why can't we run JavaScript in the backend as well? And he created Node. So now what's the case? What's the situation? Now, if you know JavaScript, you are a full stack developer. So you can build an app end to end. And this is what we're going to do here in the bootcamp. I think that was fantastic. Yeah, and that's another reason why JavaScript became so popular. Many job opportunities in the past for Java, Python developers, now they belong to JavaScript. Yeah, so good deal here. Is there any questions? No? So that's pretty much the stack. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, Node. Beyond that, beyond the certification criteria, and some of you will achieve that point, and if you don't achieve that point, you're invited to continue working on it after the bootcamp. We'll talk about databases. Yeah? Does anyone know which database system are we going to use here? SQL, wrong? MongoDB, that's correct. We're going to use MongoDB. This is what we call NoSQL. Yeah? So historically speaking, we have databases like Postgres or SQL Server, the classic ones. Yeah? And even though they are still very important today, so you'll never hear me saying bad words about them, the reality or the trend is that we are tending towards NoSQL databases, which is a different approach to databases. It goes beyond the scope of the session to talk about the differences. We may run a workshop or maybe not, I don't know. But MongoDB is one of the most important modern databases. The reason why MongoDB is so important and so convenient is because MongoDB deals with JavaScript data. Or let me rephrase that. You'll be shortly working with JavaScript objects. You know, if you want to create, for instance, a list of your favorite movies, you'll have a list or an array. We'll see, I think, tomorrow morning what an array is. You have a list of movies. Terminator, Robocop, Mega Shark, yeah, you get the list of movies. So that list, that data, that structure can be sent to the backend node, and the backend will save it into the database. So you can persist your information very easily. And on the other way around, when you refresh the page and you want to get the list of your favorite movies, the database will send the object to the backend, and the backend will send it to the frontend. Yeah? So it feels very natural to send data up and down. Historically speaking, it was a big pain in the ass because you had to transform data from JavaScript to Java, and then from Java to SQL Server. The more you manipulate the data, the more you are likely to fail. Yeah? But if the data is sent as it is, like a black box, I don't know what I got here, but I'll send it back and forth, yeah? Then you are less likely to fail. So yeah, we'll be talking about MongoDB. And finally, deployment. You are going to learn how to deploy apps to the cloud using two and a half technologies. So can you tell me any deployment, any cloud tool to deploy apps?
AWS.
Okay, AWS, that's the half of the 2.5. Heroku, fantastic. Okay, so the first thing we're going to learn is Heroku. So Heroku is one of the most important cloud providers. It works on top of AWS, so under the hood is running AWS infrastructure. But Heroku is fantastic because of several reasons. First of all, it's very easy to start with. So in 2 hours, your app will be live as soon as you want to deploy it. So it's very easy to start with, right? And documentation is really good. Yeah? So if you've never deployed an app to the cloud, they have amazing docs. Yeah? And they have a free plan. It's not the best in the world, I need to admit that. But you know, it's free. You don't have to enter any credit card details. So to start dealing with the cloud is good. And if at some day you want to create a professional app, they have a very cheap plan. I think it's $7 a month. So you know, it's a good deal. It's a good deal. So we'll work with Heroku. We'll end with GitHub Pages. That's something pretty nice as well. So you're going to deploy your portfolio to GitHub Pages. It's like a different technology provided by GitHub, where they can easily deploy your app to the cloud. Yeah? So we'll see the differences. And we'll do a workshop. I think, Ray, we scheduled a workshop about AWS, right? Towards the end of the bootcamp?
Yeah, I think last week.
Last week, correct. So we'll talk about AWS. AWS is more advanced, but yeah, we'll do a workshop about it. All the infrastructure of Coder is hosted in AWS. I want to say I play with it. No, I suffer a lot by working with it, but I'd like to share my thoughts about it. So if at some point you want to build something bigger, something definitely you should consider. Yeah. So that's pretty much the infrastructure we're going to talk about. And of course, when talking about MongoDB, if you achieve that point, we're going to learn how to create cloud databases. So it's not only about having my database here, it's also about how to deploy my database to the cloud. So we'll learn all these things. Cool. And from my side, because we're almost out of time, I think that was like the brief introduction, right? That this gives you the overview about the bootcamp. It goes without saying that in the next days, you're going to focus on the iceberg, like HTML, CSS, but things will start becoming more complicated, yeah? Also, the first half of the bootcamp is going to be more relaxed even though, okay, I understand the first 2 days could be a bit more stressful because you're starting something new, whatever. But you will see that the first half of the bootcamp is a bit more relaxed. And the reason is you have a really good schedule, task number 1, then task number 2, then task number 3, blah, blah, blah. The second half of the bootcamp is going to be a bit more stressful because you work on conflicts, but you work on a team app. You start thinking about job opportunities. I'm trying just to let you know the schedule, yeah, about how we're going to proceed. All right, so based on that, the very last thing from my side, what are we going to do next? I'm going to send you a link on Slack. Once again, make sure you got the Slack open. Please bookmark this link. I'm going to pin it into the Slack channel so everyone can access it. And as I mentioned before, I hope Damiano and Andrea, you can see my screen. So let me set it literally now. So if I go to Slack and I set it on general full-time. So please save that link. Why? Because what you
Where's the link? I didn't find.
Where is the link? It's on the general full-time. I just posted 10 seconds ago. So, what's the plan for today?
Sorry?
It's on Slack. You got access to Slack?
I don't have Slack. I need the Slack link. Where is it?
So you didn't join the Slack yet, right? No, I think you did.
Oh. Really?
Hello, can you hear me?
I don't have the link.
The link is on Slack, on the general full-time channel. So can you see the link? Probably you won't have access yet, right?
So I need the link on Slack, and I will find it on Slack.
Yeah, the link is on Slack. I mean, I'll set it on Google Hangouts as well. It doesn't matter how you save it. So I'll paste the link. You got the link now on Hangouts.
Okay, now, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Andrea. You probably won't have access. Why? Because it's a private repo. I need to grant you access, which is what I'm going to do in the next minutes. But once I grant you access, well, before granting you access, to grant you access, you need a GitHub account. So please make sure.
Yeah, I am.
Cool, fantastic. Please make sure you watch the videos we send you on the preparation task. I'll share the links to the videos in a minute if you don't remember where that email is, right? I'll share the links on Slack in a minute. So please watch these 2 videos, and after watching these videos, send me your GitHub account. I see some of you already done that, fantastic. And I'll grant you access in the next minute. Give me just 10, 15 minutes and you will get access, right? And what happens next? Once you get access, that's the list of tasks that you are going to deal with. We're going to follow a sequential order. Task number 1, task number 2, task number 3. Please check the details of each task, and then we'll start working. We'll start creating the CodeFlix application. So look, just to give you an overview, the first task, we're going to learn how to add an image to a React application. On task number 2, we'll start talking about layout, how to display elements in columns, rows, all these things. We'll start talking about mobile on task number 4, how to adapt the user interface for mobile devices, how to deal with user interaction, many things, right? So I don't recommend you to try to understand the full backlog because you'll get mad. Just go one task after the other. And of course, if you need any help, Gray and me, we're here to support you, right? That's pretty much the plan. Is there any questions? No? No? All good? Easy? All right. So again, this workshop is on YouTube already. So if you want to watch it again, you know how to proceed. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Andrea and Damiano. And if you need any help, just drop me a message on Slack.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Excellent.